Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, cha, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jedley. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We are coming to you from the beautiful, wonderful, pollen-covered neighborhood of Reedville, located in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We're so very delighted and absolutely honored that you would join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. You can join us in our mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show, letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network, and they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Amazon Music, Audible, CastBox, Player FM. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. I think this is going to be one of your favorite episodes of Reading with Your Kids. Two wonderful guests. First up, Carly Bonfante. She is here to celebrate her Full Moon Fairy series of picture books. Later in the show, we'll be meeting Joan Holub. She's here to celebrate Boy and Reeky Dog. Before we invite our guests into the studio, I would love to invite you to visit a very special website. It's clownswithoutborders.org. Clownswithoutborders.org. This is a group that I absolutely adore. I am part of Clowns Without Borders, and I had the honor of being part of the 2023 tour of El Salvador. I had so much fun joining with artists from all over the world to bring a smile to people who really needed it and really appreciated it too. And we would love for you to join us as a monthly Joy Maker. The Joy Makers, they're a family of people just like you who love to laugh and make other people feel good. So please take a moment and visit clownswithoutborders.org and consider joining me as a Joy Maker. Hey, my friends, would you like to bring a little warmth and magic into your home? Let me introduce you to Welsh Mountain Candles, hand-poured on a working Amish farm in Lancaster County. These all-natural, toxin-free candles are made from palm wax with a stunning crystallized glow, rich coconut apricot wax for a creamy finish, and essential oils for a pure, refreshing scent. Whether you're winding down, setting the mood, or just love a great candle, Welsh Mountain Candles are crafted with care and made to be shared. Visit welshmountaincandles.com. Use the promo code JED10 for 10% off your order today. Light up your home with Welsh Mountain Candles, where every candle tells a story. Join us right now from the beautiful state of California. Our guest is here today to celebrate her brand new picture book. It's called Full Moon Fairy. Please welcome to the show, Carly Bonfante. Hey, Carly, how are you?
Hi, I'm wonderful. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm so excited to be here.
Delighted to have you on. When my beautiful wife and I were in Ireland back in the fall, we learned all about fairies.
Oh, yes, yes.
And there was another, and the fairies in Ireland are not, they're kind of mischievous.
Yes,
right?
yes.
What about the fairies we're going to meet in Full Moon Fairy?
Yeah, no, my Full Moon Fairy is really sweet, and she's really grounded in nature, and she's really just all about values like kindness and, you know, taking care of herself, taking care of the earth, taking care of her little critter nocturnal friends that she meets and has an adventure on under every full moon. And, you know, she's a character I dreamt up probably, you know, not too dissimilar to myself as I was a little girl, kind of more of a tomboy growing up with an older brother and, you know, having to be a little rough and tumble and always outside barefoot in the dirt, you know, digging for pollywogs and, you know, adventuring outside. So, you know, that's kind of really where my fairy, Faye the Full Moon Fairy is based off of.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about the story we're going to experience when we cuddle up with our kids and read this book.
Yeah. So really, this all started, gosh, now it's been almost 4 years ago. And my friend introduced me to a little tradition that she was doing with her family, where on every full moon, she would place her kids' shoes out and the full moon fairy would come and leave a little trinket in their shoes, and kind of like a very old folklore tale that probably was passed down through the years. And then I started adopting that with my kids, and we started kind of doing this little tradition. But on top of just putting our shoes out, I started to kind of really develop these characters and imagine these worlds, and started testing these stories on my kids. And I developed the character of Faye, the full moon fairy. And the first story in this series of books, you kind of learn about Faye and what her little gift giving tradition is, and kind of a little bit about her, and how on every full moon she'll come and kind of deliver a little trinket, a little whatnot that kind of helps us remind us to take care of the earth and take care of each other. And so that's the first story of the series. And then from there, you kind of go on a whole journey through the lunar calendar. You'll go, so there's full moon fairy under the harvest moon, and under the harvest moon she meets, the harvest moon is the full moon in September. And then she goes on this little adventure with Sprouts the bunny, and they kind of adventure through a farmer's garden, and they have a little experience about what it means to be under the harvest moon. And then that's kind of the story that you'll really cuddle up and read to your kids on the eve of the harvest moon. And then these stories are really brought to life. There's an optional kind of add-on. If you're a subscriber to the books, you can add these little trinkets that will come nested under the book. So you read the story with your kiddos, you put them to bed, and all you have to do is toss this little trinket in their shoe that is a little nod to something that might have been in the book. So the trinket for the harvest moon, for example, is a little paper surprise ball that's in the shape of a pumpkin, and you kind of unravel it, and there's little surprises in there. And then Sprouts the bunny from the character in the book is at the center of this little pumpkin that the kids would unravel in the morning that the fairy had brought to them. So it's this kind of very holistic experience, and the kids get so excited about just like learning about the moon and the lunar cycle and where we're at, and what it means to be in this part of the calendar in the northern hemisphere. And then they get this little surprise that they wake up to that really kind of ties it all together and brings it to life. So
very cool. Very
yeah.
cool. I have to say, visiting your website, and you mentioned this has been something you've been working on for 4 years.
Yeah.
Lots of authors will come on and tell me, and I know it's difficult to put out your first book and whatnot, but you've taken that. It's like on steroids. You've
I know.
These
Yeah.
12 books with trinkets, and
Yes.
where did you jump into this and say, I'm just going to do this, or at some point we were into it and say, what am I doing?
Oh my God. It has been, sometimes I'm half crazy for sure. There's definitely moments on this ride where I've been like, turn it off, shut it down. I can't do this. I'm in over my head. I don't have a background, in publishing. My background is really in fashion wholesale. So I've been in the fashion industry, and then I moved on to the wellness industry. But on the wholesale side, I've really led sales teams and managed sales and worked with partners like Nordstrom's in kind of being the middleman, helping to manage these businesses. And so over the years, I'm kind of in tune with this production cycle and certain things, but more on kind of the wellness and fashion side. So this whole, publishing, and I'm self-publishing all of these books, it was really, I kind of dove right in and, thinking, how hard could it be? And let me tell you, it's pretty hard, but thankfully I've built, a good team in terms of, getting some help, of course. So I did, a funny story was that in the very beginning, I sat down. We have a family friend, a very good family friend that wrote the first Toy Story. And I sat down with him and I told him this whole concept. And he was like, oh my God, I love this idea. I want to help you write these stories. I see it. I see how great it could be. And I was like, oh my God, that's not even why I was, called this meeting, but that was amazing. We brainstormed for a little while. He and I went back and forth, but he ended up not really having the bandwidth to help me, but he was working with someone and mentoring a gal based out of New York. And he's like, let me connect you with her. She might be able to help. So her and I really collaborated on the stories. I had the whole concepts, the characters, the real whole world built out, but I just needed, a real literary person that could really help support putting the kind of fine tune, points on the story. So her name's Talia and she's based in New York. She's fabulous. And she really helped me bring these stories to life. And then I did find an illustrator based here in Lake Arrowhead, and she and I collaborated and we worked so well together. And what's crazy, the first book, took over 6 months. And I remember 6 months in and I'm like, oh my God, Kenzie, is this normal? Like, I can't believe how long this is taking. And she's like, long? I thought we were zooming along like so fast. And I'm like, oh, I'm a very like, okay, let's, go. And she was like, Carly, this is normal. A children's book usually will take 6 months to a year to really illustrate and get together. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be 80 by the time we're done with this. But we did find some efficiencies in terms of doing the series. And, once we built the first book and had that done, it was really like, we had a lot of templates and the styling and certain things where we could just go faster and faster on every book. But now, that was really in 2020, early 2022, kind of working with her on the first book. And, it was just like lightning speed to get to where we are today. We just a month ago wrapped the final book and gave it to the printing house to get that, going. So, but we've had a very, very strict calendar that we've had to stay on because I ended up going live with the business last August. So I had to stay on this rigorous calendar so that I'd be delivering these kits, to my humble, small group of subscribers at this point. But hopefully, of course, that will grow. But yeah, long story long, it's been a wild ride. And boy, it's like drinking with the fire hose. I've just learned so much but it's been fun and I'm excited to continue, just now nurturing the business side of it.
Well, that's really wonderful. I was blown away when I started reading with your kids, and I had one of the first publisher that we had on of a traditional publishing company, and he explained to me that it can take anywhere from 3 to 4 years from the time he buys a manuscript until the time a book lands on a shelf. So for you to have this 12 books out there in a period of 4 years is quite incredible. And so
I don't know. Yeah, it's so wild. Again, it's been really wild, but that's also the liberty of doing the self-publishing, is that I was able to really have all that control and really keep my own, time and action calendars and work as quickly and closely with our illustrator and writer, as possible to keep this going really quickly. But yeah, I do pat myself on the back that, it's kind of worked out so far, hopefully now.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's obvious that you're a very dynamic person with a lot of drive, and you have that business experience. But it's also obvious to me that you have a real passion for nature and helping kids connect with nature. How do those two things balance out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it correlates, of course, to becoming a mom myself and really, thinking about this day and age and how quickly we all are moving and how, a lot of those slow moments and lessons where, grandparents and parents have time to really nurture these, really values and impart like the core values to their kids, I think gets a little lost in all the scramble this day and age. And so I was really craving ways to slow down and impart those lessons with my kids. And I grew up very much in touch with nature. If I had free time, my mom was like, get out of the house. I mean, go run around in the canyon. I mean, thankfully I had the ability to do that. And that's also something that's unfortunately getting harder and harder, I think, between safety and just proximity and all sorts of reasons. It's hard to just really have a lot of access to unobstructed, freedom in nature for kids to go around and explore and look under rocks and, dig in puddles. And, it's just becoming a little less accessible. So, for me, it was just a way that I could kind of create something that might be a everlasting, exciting and everlasting and fun little tradition that could help, create connection between families as well as excitement for kids, as well as imparting, these little lessons of kindness and connection to nature and how we're all connected and how, whether you want to call it the butterfly effect or whatever kind of little actions have big consequences. And, those are kind of the little sub lessons that I try to impart in these stories, as well as just really like, we really are all connected, and as a busy mom, with 4,000, I call it all my windows open in my head on my screen of like, okay, you need to buy the groceries, feed the dog, get the kids to school, whatever all we have, juggling 1,000 things. It's also hard, I think, for moms to find, parents, moms, whoever is a primary caretaker, to find those moments of joy and spontaneity and just like sheer wonder. And this was also something to support that. I felt myself like drowning under that sea of pressure and to-do lists. And this is one thing that, I do get that kind of complaint sometimes from parents, like, this is just one more thing that I have to do, that I'm going to have to read this story and remember the full moon and put the thing. And I'm like, yeah, but that might be the point, that you might need it the most. Cause like when you see your kids just have that moment of joy in the morning and you get to feel fun and, and it is so easy cause it can come right to your door. It's like you don't have to overthink it.
Right.
But these are kind of all the things that kind of connected and led me to want to develop this. And definitely being rooted in nature was something that was important to me to kind of really, pull this all together, of course, being about the full moons and, all of that.
Well, I love your attitude of giving parents an opportunity to do this special thing. I know when my wife is originally from Puerto Rico, so our kids, in addition to Christmas, celebrated the Three Kings Day.
Oh, yes, of course.
And that tradition in Puerto Rico where on the Three Kings Day, you put some hay in a shoebox and then the kings come. And I remember when my son was in kindergarten, and he went in and showed everybody what he got from the Three Kings and Three Kings.
Yeah.
I got calls. I go, what do you mean? I got to get another gift? I mean, and my attitude was, hey, this is this is an opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
A burden and one more thing on your to-do list. This is, I get to do this thing.
Yeah. And I tell parents, I get a lot of people writing in and asking, if it's crucial that they buy the trinkets with the books. And I'm very supportive and very communicative, saying you do whatever works for your family. I make the trinkets available because if you want a one-stop shop and not have to think about it. But for years of doing this with my kids before, I would find a cool rock and paint it, or I would, find a cool leaf and like make, couple leaves and make like a little like wreath and put it in. Like you can get creative and not have to purchase anything too. You can just like do what makes, what works for your family. So, that's also why I think this is such a fun little tradition, because it can definitely be morphed into whatever works for that particular family.
Yeah. How many kids love the elf on the shelf?
Right. I know. This is, yeah. I mean, that was such a huge phenomenon. And I actually have people that have said, made that slight connection between my products and business and books. And I have even I've created, stuffed animals of some of the characters in my book, and they're all handmade and meant to be beautiful heirloom quality that can be passed down for generations. So that correlation can be easily made with my business, but I definitely, with my, my outlook on things is like, this is a slightly different version. It's not, it's not tied to any particular denominational holiday, and B, it can be morphed into whatever, and it's not meant to be some over the top thing where you have to build, a movie set every night for your, on the full moon. It's like literally just put your shoes out and put a little something for your kids to discover in the morning. But it is similar in the wonder and the magic of it, and kids love that. I mean, my one of my catchphrases is adding more, full moon fairy is adding more magic to the magic years, because we really only have this very finite moment in time of a couple of years, 4, maybe 6 years if you're lucky, where you get to really, experience that wonder where your littles believe in this kind of magic. And it's a special time that I want parents to treasure. And I'm trying to hang on to it for dear life, as my kids are now 7 and 9 and kind of like teetering up the ladder here. And it's just like, these years are precious. And I really feel that.
They certainly are. And, I remember when my daughter was in 2nd grade and she was an independent reader, and I'm kind of bummed out that I'm not going to read her anymore because she's being on her own. And her 2nd grade teacher coming up to me and going, "You got to keep reading to her." And I'm like, "Really?
Yeah.
Awesome."
I know. That's a great point. Our 3rd grade, my son's in 3rd grade now, and his teacher is very much a proponent of still reading together. And she said, read, we've read everything from Harry Potter to, we've read so many books together, but he loves being read to. And she says that's so important for their development, actually, still so I'll keep reading to him as long as he wants me to read to him too.
Yeah. And I think things like the fairy, the full moon fairy, I think it's just a wonderful way, another way to bond with our kids and to get them thinking about nature, being curious about the world around them, and seeing how things work. And it's another great way to get them off screens for
exactly. That's what I really wanted. All of these books that I created are beautiful hardback bound books that have a linen spine, and they will, they're meant to be treasured and also passed down, and hopefully, parents and families will want to collect them all. Each moon book has a different colored spine, and you kind of can line them up and you can see, the range of the colors of the moons basically. But yeah, and I agree. It's like, getting them curious about the world. And, these moons really lend themselves to that thought, because we have, for example, under the beaver moon, which, is obviously held in a time when in November, and that's a time when beavers are building their nests out in nature in their dams. And so my story is of course, Faye going on an adventure with a beaver who is building a dam, and he's creating this ecosystem for all these other creatures that get to benefit from the dam that he's building. And this story kind of takes you through that experience and shows you the inside of his little beaver house and explains all the things that are happening. So it's a really fun way to, throughout the year, explain what's happening in our world and touch on, different creatures and what they're doing to contribute to this whole ecosystem. And it's been a really fun thing to create.
That's awesome. I'll tell you this silly little story. I grew up in the city. We still live within the city limits of Boston, but we're as far away from downtown as you can be and still be.
Uh-huh.
We have a wildlife sanctuary on the other side of our property. And
wow.
It's amazing. I was out there and I had always heard about beavers and what they did and news and everything. But I was on a hike in the preserve with my niece, and we kind of went off on this little, very seldom used trail.
Uh-huh.
And we came upon a tree that was being worked on by beavers. And
oh my gosh.
Dude, this is so cool.
Wow. What a lucky spotting. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if that can make me, almost 100 years old, it can, bring that all out in me. Imagine what kind of adventures you can have with your kids as you're discovering these moons and going out into nature and helping your kids just really connect with our world.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, with the trinkets, of course you can do your own, you can find your own, but what the trinkets that I also try to develop are like being a nod to something in the book and or that time of year, so for example, for under the worm moon, which is in March, like, of course, spring is happening and the earth and the ground is waking up and things are starting to sprout and you kind of want to get outside. And I created a little nature box where, a little nature museum box that has little different compartments and a little sliding top, and you can go outside and collect, different treasures, whether that's rocks or twigs and, cool little leaves, and put them in there into these little compartments and, set them on your bedside table and treasure them. So things like that. And, for the under the flower moon, which is about to happen in May, we have like a flower press craft. So I have my kids go out into the garden and just collect a bunch of flowers, and then we pressed them between coffee filters and then made our own pressed flower art to celebrate under the flower moon. So there's just something to tie it all together so that they learn, even further what's happening at that time of year.
It just popped into my head. This would be a super gift for a grandparent.
Yes.
A really close aunt, godmother, godfather to share with the kids, especially if you're not able to, we live so far apart. I grew up, everybody was within a mile of my home when I grew up, but now we're also spread apart. What a neat thing to be able to get on Zoom and talk with our kids.
Totally. It's funny you say that. I've noticed, I haven't even been in business a year yet, but I would say that over half of my current client customers are grandparents or aunts and uncles. And you're 100% right. It gives them that touch point that they can, the day after the full moon, get on a call and learn about, what they learned in the story, as well as what the full moon fairy brought them. And it's a really fun connecting point for grandparents and close family. So that's 100% right.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see what else is going to come from your imagination, because I got a feeling Full Moon Fairy is just the beginning of a Carlin empire. And for people who want to know more about Full Moon Fairy and to see what else comes from you, where can people go?
Yeah, so they can head to the website for sure, which is just fullmoonfairy.com. We're on Instagram, which is at full_moon_fairy. And yeah, those are kind of probably the two best places to learn more about the business and to see all the products and definitely follow along on this journey that we're experiencing.
Well, that's wonderful. We've had a great time speaking to the driving force, because I think that's who you are. The driving force behind Full Moon Fairy. Our guest has been Carly Bonfante. Hey, Carly, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me. This has been such a treat. Thank you.
Are you looking for a creative way to bond with your kids? Let me tell you all about Drawing with Your Kids, the ultimate destination for artistic adventures. Join us as we dive into the wonderful world of children's books with renowned illustrators guiding you step by step. From beloved characters to whimsical scenes, unleash your imagination and create cherished memories together. Whether you're a seasoned artist or just picking up a pencil, there's something for everyone at Drawing with Your Kids. Please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com, and click on the Drawing with Your Kids link at the top of the page and let the creativity flow. Drawing with Your Kids, where every stroke brings stories to life. My friends, if you have ever thought about owning a business that's fun, rewarding, and makes a valuable contribution to kids' education, well, Brooklyn Robot Foundry is calling your name. I recently met Jenny Young. She's the founder of Brooklyn Robot Foundry. And let me tell you, she is incredible. Her passion for getting kids excited about STEAM, that's STEM plus art, it's contagious. I'm telling you. This isn't your average kids program. Brooklyn Robot Foundry is all about hands-on, screen-free STEAM fun. These kids get to build a different robot each class and take it home with them afterwards. Kids love it. Parents are raving about it. And now you can own a franchise and bring this incredible experience to families in your community. Now, this isn't your typical franchise. Brooklyn Robot Foundry is a mobile, flexible business with a deep curriculum that's making a real impact in schools and communities around the country. Franchise owners get a proven curriculum, full training, and support from a passionate team. So what are you waiting for? Please visit bit.ly/RobotJed. That's bit.ly/RobotJed. And let them know you heard about it on Reading with Your Kids. Join us right now from the beautiful state of North Carolina. Our guest is here today to celebrate her new graphic novel. It's called Boy and Reeky Dog. Please welcome to the show, Joan Holub. Joan, how are you?
I'm great. Nice to see everybody that I really don't see, but it's nice to see you.
It's great to see you. Joan, I have to tell you, whoever the publicist was that pitched me your book had me at Fart Boy.
Oh, there's actually another Fart Boy book, unfortunately. But that's just Fart Boy, and it's all one word, and mine's Fart Boy and Reeky Dog.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll tell her that.
I love books that get kids. You know,
right.
I actually had one of the I've very rarely gotten any complaints about the podcast. One was a complaint where we were talking about the science of farts or something like that. The book was great, and it just used the word fart to grab kids' attention, because you and I were talking about reluctant readers. There are lots and lots of kids out there for multiple reasons that don't love reading.
Right.
And I think there's more today because of all the distractions, and we need to find a way to hook them, bring them into the tent. And if you're talking about a 7 or 8 or 9-year-old boy and lots of 7 or 8, 9-year-old girls, talking about a fart, that's a great way to get their attention.
And also, graphic novels and comics will grab kids and bring them in, kids that wouldn't read otherwise. They didn't really, the reason I probably wrote this book was because I was really interested in sci-fi when I was a kid, all the Galaxy Quest, The Day the Earth Stood Still, Terminator, all that stuff. I liked watching those kind of movies.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that kind of inspired me to want to write something kind of sci-fi-ish, which is what this sci-fi-ish would be what this book is, I guess.
Awesome. So tell me about Fart Boy and Reeky Dog.
Reeky Dog. Well, Fart Boy is created by Professor Groovy Pants in this giant machine, and it doesn't go quite as the professor expects, and he blows up, and so that puts the professor to sleep for about 8 years or something. And meanwhile, Fart Boy goes toddling down the street, and he runs into a couple that decides to adopt him. And but he has these various fart issues as he gets older, and his parents don't know what to do, so they take him to a doctor. And I actually like having some teaching moments. And so when he goes to the doctor, they're trying to figure out why he's having these fart issues. And so the doctor that he goes to sings a song about farts and how they, and just stuff like that, just silliness to kind of get kids interested. And so that's kind of like the beginning of it. And then Fart Boy, have you read it? Or just kind of skimmed it or a little bit? You probably can't read every book that comes in.
I cannot, and I couldn't read it because I don't have it.
Oh, you don't? They should have sent you one. I'll send you one. You need a Fart Boy and Reeky Dog book, honestly. So Fart Boy and he's got super strong farts, and I think the book kind of works because of it's a kid superhero whose main power is super strong farts, which is inherently unexpected and kind of funny to people. And Reeky Dog is an alien with a keen sense of drama, and that adds another layer of humor. Professor Gravy Pants, I love funny villains, and that's definitely what he is. At one point, he turns into a perfume lady, and they have a in the air war between him and Fart Boy, where he's throwing perfume packets that you get at I don't know if you go to the women's part of a department store, but you can get these little smelly things just to try some kind of perfume or something. So she's throwing these packets around as kind of bombing Fart Boy. And so it gets weirder from there, I guess.
Well, I love the weird, and I love that superpower. My wife might accuse me of having that superpower myself. Tell me, is this your first graphic novel?
This is my first graphic novel, and I wanted to try something different. I've written board books. They're all kind of behind me. Board books, picture books, early readers, stuff for the Goddess Girl series for ages 8 to 12. That's about 30 books, a 30-book series that I write with a friend. And I just wanted to try something different. And you're hearing a lot about graphic novels and comics and stuff now. And that's something that wasn't really accessible to me as a kid. I didn't even really know they existed. Did you have stuff like that, comics? And
we did have comics. It's interesting. There was when I was a kid back in the mid 60s, I think there was a newspaper strike here in Boston. And at that time we had 3 newspapers, and so they all went dark, and there were no newspapers out. And the TV news had people come in and read the comics that would have been in the newspaper.
Oh, wow.
That's how important.
Great idea. Yeah.
And I remember it really stood out to me. We had a corner store we grew up in the inner city, and we had a corner store, and all the comics that they sold and all the paperback books that they sold came without a cover in that store. I think I've learned that those were books that the publishers had to buy back. And
they tore off the covers? Yeah.
It wouldn't be sold again, but
I don't think they do that anymore. I'm not sure about that, but
I don't know.
That was a thing.
Yep, that was a thing, and so
yeah.
A lot of great deals on those books. So we did have comics. I was into the funnier comics like the Bugs Bunny and that thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we all watched those on TV. So yeah.
Yeah. So how did you? I recently spoke to Jacqueline Davies. She just turned one of her middle grade novels that's been incredibly successful and out in the world for 15 years. And they asked her to turn it into a graphic novel. And she was talking a little bit about that experience. She compared writing a graphic novel to kind of writing and directing a screenplay or a movie. Is that something that you felt?
Writing a graphic novel from her original
book, yeah.
Yeah, I did. I do this thing where my books, I draw the pictures for them, even though I'm not an illustrator. That's how I have to, and it was particularly, this graphic novel was 140 pages. Right. And I drew sketches for every page of the book because I had to do that to understand it. And I do that with like my picture books. Here's the graphic. Like my picture books. This one I drew like this, the art for the entire thing, and I do that for all my. I was looking for my Boy and Reeky Dog book, which I don't have. Here it is. So this one I drew but these are the illustrations that the illustrator did. My drawings were not this good at all, but I often show the illustrator, like when I turn something into a publisher, I say I did all these drawings. And when I take that into a publisher to see if they want to buy the book to begin with, it really helps to draw all that stuff because they can see it already instead of just words, as you can imagine. But I say, I drew, this is what I did with this, and you can show it to the illustrator if they want to see it, or don't show it to them if they don't want it, if they don't want to be like influenced by it. And it's usually a little more than half of the illustrators do want to see it, and but they still do something really different but it gives them they, instead of starting down here, they can start up here and build on it. But some other people don't want to be influenced at all. They're afraid that will be in their head and then they won't be able to do it. And so that's fine with me because I did what I had to do in order to understand the book. So yeah, I did that with Fart Boy, and I mean that's a lot of pages. It really is. It was kind of crazy. I should show you. I'll show you some of the drawings that I did. This is what I drew, and this is what the cover looks like. So you can see that the artist is a little better than I am at this, but I mean that's what I had to do. So there's all these little, that's 2 pages of the book that I drew all that stuff, and it looks totally different if you look at that page in the book. Right. It's a totally different thing. And like I did this, it was, it's a lot of work, but if you take this into an editor, they're like, oh, I get it, more quickly than just words. So it's worth it. And plus I just have to do it. It's just something I'm driven to do.
Okay. Well, I have to tell you, in the 3,000 interviews that I've done for Reading with Your Kids, you are the first author who's told me that that's their creative process. So
really,
very, very interesting. Yes. In fact, I was very surprised to hear that with traditionally published books, there is usually little to no collaboration or communication between authors and illustrators.
That is very true. Yeah. And it's because I think the publisher wants to be in the loop all the time. They don't want us to forget about them and go off on some tangent together. And so I get that, and so I'm just used to it. I'm just used to that But I often sort of have met some of the illustrators later on, like Tom Lichtenheld, who did want to look at my drawings, but his are like way better than I could ever do. And he thanked me, for this, because he said it like I said, it took him, to a certain position, and then he was able to, and he also tried like some new, illustration style or something. I'm certainly not good with the colors. I could never do that stuff, but I'm just driven to, I don't know how people can figure out a story without drawing it.
Well, that's interesting. One of the things that I ask author illustrators is what comes first for them? Is it an image or is it the text? And I get all sorts of answers. What about you? If this is your creative process to use the pictures, what's coming first in your mind? Is it the story? Is it the words? Or is it the image?
This is a story. Definitely. And then I start, sort of drawing, later. I probably am, with the Boy and Reeky Dog, I was kind of doing things. I wrote a whole manuscript, but it was way shorter than the final manuscript. And then I just started pasting things on the pages and writing stuff around it. So it was kind of a just interwoven thing, I guess. But, like Zero the Hero, there's not that many words, so I just sort of started doing it later, but I did need to do it. I remember walking around in a department store or something and getting the idea for Zero the Hero. I just thought of it. And I'm always so afraid. I never am one of those people that has like a little pen and a notebook, and I just have to like go Zero the Hero until I get home. And so, yeah.
Yeah. When you write the manuscript and then you start doing the illustrations for you, does the story ever change because of the illustrations? Do you get like an idea? Oh, I could have taken the story this way.
Yeah. Not major changes like you're talking about. Maybe go this whole other way, but when I start drawing something, like in one thing in Boy and Reeky Dog, they go off and to the ether for a while, and so I'm sort of drawing that. I drew like a spiral kind of them heading off, and I couldn't just explain that really. If I didn't draw that, I'd be telling an editor, that this is going to have a spiral, but I would be sitting there going, it's going to look sort of like this, so I need to just show it to them. They don't seem to mind. I think they like it. They understand the story more quickly. So,
well, it certainly seems like it's working for you. If you have a series that has over 30 different books in it, and people are entrusting you to create books in different styles, I have a feeling they like you as a writer.
It's okay. The Goddess Girl series I was talking about, and there's a Heroes in Training series also. I co-write those with a friend. And those are not illustrated, so they're just written. So that's kind of interesting that I don't feel the need to draw pictures for it at all, just kind of a different thing. I don't know.
Fascinating. Well, the creative process is so fascinating because everybody approaches it in different ways.
Yeah, I agree. Because the people that I know, other authors and stuff that I know are, they do have like a whole different process than what I do. It's kind of interesting to go on those away get-togethers, with other authors or illustrators and see what they're doing and how they're doing it, and it's so different. You wouldn't think it would be, but
I
guess most people are just writing the story. I wish I could do that. It would save me a lot of time.
Now, I have to ask a question because I know that there's a parent out there that's listening to the show, and they're saying, if I bring this graphic novel into my house, my 8-year-old's he's going to be farting everywhere. I can barely get him to stop now. I can just imagine at dinner time, he's just going to be lifting that cheek and the other cheek, and it's going to cause chaos.
Well, I don't know. I think that's going to be their problem. But it's not the kind of book that entices kids to do something like that. It's sort of like a superpower and things happen with it or something. I'm not they're not going to be jettisoning into the sky. You know, I think they're going to figure that out pretty quickly. So hopefully they won't do that. But I do think it's a little bit of a barrier, but there's also the group of kids that, because I heard from one woman, I think from NetGalley or something, I read that she said that she brought it home and her kid just saw it, took it, and went off with it and read it. I mean, he just wanted to. I don't think he was necessarily a reluctant reader, but there's that kind of kid that's just like, that's me, that's for me. You know, it just depends on the kid, I guess. So yeah, you got a good point, but I hope they can overlook it because it gets their kids reading.
Absolutely. You know, I didn't tell you, Joan, I made a living doing educational magic shows for 35 years. And
Magic shows?
Magic shows, yeah. And I've had some interesting experiences performing in schools, not too far away from you, Fayetteville area, Cameron, a lot of little communities. I walked into a school once and found everybody in that central hallway all curled up in the fetal position. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? And I was really panicking. And they said, haven't you ever been in a tornado drill before? And I'm like, oh, no, actually.
I haven't ever either. Wow.
But I told a show in a school outside of Fayetteville. And I knew the minute I told the joke that I wasn't going to be invited back the next. It was, What's invisible and smells like carrots?
What's invisible and smells like carrots? I don't know.
Funny farts.
Funny farts. Oh my God. And were you invited back?
I was not invited. The kids loved it. I mean,
I know.
Exploded, but I saw the principal in the back.
Because they're going to be hearing about that forever. They're going to go home and tell their moms and their dads. Yeah.
So what about you? Is school visits something that you really enjoy doing?
Yeah, I do school visits and graphic novel kind of workshops or small ones, you know, where you are just talking to a small group of kids works best for me instead of like a huge group. That's works too, but I can't really do the whole graphic novel thing and see what everyone's doing and sort of help them and that kind of thing. That's more kind of rewarding in that respect.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is kind of fun.
I know that kids ask interesting questions when an author or anybody comes into a school. Is there one question that you've been asked over the years that really kind of stands out in your mind?
From kids or?
Yeah, from kids or interesting questions from adults.
I can't really think of anything right now. Usually it's, do you do school visits? It's like the main thing people want to know. That seems to be a big thing. I know I've seen, once you see someone like Dan Gutman do, do you know him?
Yes, or of him? A couple of times, yeah.
Yeah, when he's just a master at doing that kind of thing. So, you know, you're just like, I'm not worthy, but, I do enjoy doing that kind of stuff because kids, it's like a light goes off and they get so excited when they feel like they've accomplished something with their writing or drawing. And sometimes I do, because some kids, I feel like they kind of need to draw it themselves and then put like little balloons on it, what it's going to be. What they're going to say or make out of it. Because I feel like you could just draw something and then say, oh, this is what this is. This person wants to do this and just figure it out once you've seen what you've drawn. That's a perfectly respectable way to draw, to create, I guess. So I haven't really run around too many kids like that do that. But I tell them that I do it. And I think that encourages them to sort of try it.
Oh, yeah. Great. Hey, let's tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Fart Boy and Reeky Dog and find out more about all the different books that you've brought into the world.
Okay, probably my website, Joan Holub at what is it? I'm not sure. Joan Holub. Let me just find it.
Well, I know you have joanholub.com.
JoanHolub.com.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's the best place. Awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
We've had a great time speaking to the author of Fart Boy and Reeky Dog. It's a new graphic novel from our guest, Joan Holub. Hey, Joan, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. Please connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, at Jedley Magic on X. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/readingwithyourkids, and our website is readingwithyourkids.com. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guest, Carly Bonfante. Please be sure to check out Full Moon Fairy. Also want to thank Joan Holub. Please be sure to check out Fart Boy and Reeky Dog. I want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Rory Grady, Stella Sheree. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.